All right, so you got done with 878. Well, if you did it, I hope that you got these answers to it as you worked through it. So in part A, negative 1.4-ish and 4.4-ish. In part B, exactly, x equals -2. Turns out that's the only one that's factorable. Notice I factored out the GCF first. Keeping that out, this factors this way. I'm not showing all the work because we've done a lot of that, but that's how that works out. Part C, negative 4.97-ish, negative 0.21-ish, and then part D, no answer. Now I hope you used Desmos, and if you didn't, do that, but let me show you what you should get if you do use Desmos. Right, cheer. So, there we go. First function, this is the same A, B, C, D in order. I've got only part A turned on. I want to point out some things. Please take note of this. First of all, you notice the little negative and that the parabola points down. We talked about that way in September, and now it's come back again. So if you have a negative out front here, this thing's going to point down. Next, turn that sucker off, turn on this one. This one, happy little green graph. Notice how this is narrower than that one? The first one's a sort of normal sized, like me. But the second one is like 4 times as tall. And I want you to think about it with that number out front, 4 times as tall. It's like the parabola is like, I want to reach 4 times as tall as my other guy. Okay? Second thing I want to point out to you is that this green graph hits the x-axis only once. The other one hit it twice. Okay? Here's part C. Normal sized. This is not negative, it's positive, so it's going to point upward. Hits the x-axis twice, that is, hits the x-axis twice. And then the last one. The reason why you got no answer is because that sucker didn't cross the x-axis at all. Little kind of preview of the future. What's coming? When you're solving those equations, those quadratics, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. When you set it equal to 0, like I said in the last video, you're going to get one of 3 kinds of answers. You're going to get no solution, because the thing doesn't cross the x-axis. You're going to get 2 solutions, because it crosses the x-axis twice. And you could also get, here's the third option, just 1 solution. Because the parabola's vertex just touches the x-axis and then goes back up. So you could get 1 solution, 2 solutions, or 0 solutions. Those are the 3 options. Okay? So that's how that could go when you're getting your answers, and that's hopefully what you saw, what you got when you used Desmos. Okay, so now they move on to problem 879, and that brings us to a new thing. And I'm going to show you, we're going to modify the lesson that's in the book a little bit, not a ton. Really trying to get this the way I want it, but you know, technology. Kill the lights a little bit so you can see it a little better. But here's what they want us to do. And this is kind of a long walk to get you to this lesson, but hold tight. They want us to use order of operations in what we learned back in like chapter 4, x minus 2, because that's what this says. This is like saying 3 times x minus 2 times x minus 2 minus 5. Order of operations says I have to do multiplication before I do subtraction. So I'm going to do that multiplication like we did back in the day, filling in boxes, the happy boxes. And now I'm going to add up all these happy little terms, and I get x squared minus 4x. Remember doing this? The good times. And then plus 4. I still have the minus 5 hanging out here, and I still have the 3 sitting there. Well, order of operations says I've got to distribute, and my board says I'm out of room. I'm going to move this down here. So this is going down here, and I've got this, and I got, okay, 3x squared minus 12x plus 12. And then again, I still have that minus 5 hanging out over there. Again, order of operations or just common sense math says, why don't you just go ahead and put those two together? 7. Now here's the funny thing. I don't mean ha ha funny, but the funny thing is they now want us to factor that. So you're going to say to yourself, self, is he saying we got to go back to this? No. You're going to learn that this is a different form, but they want us to actually do the box and diamond with this. So with that in mind, I just go ahead and I obediently run through this process of filling in the corners, 21x squared. So now I got to think of two numbers that multiply to 21x squared and add up to negative 12x. OMG, what could that be? 21, 7 and 3. Well, that doesn't work. But this is what they want me to do. They want me They wanted me to try to factor this. Turns out that doesn't work. So they wanted me to use the graph. Trust me, there's a point to be made here. Hold tight. So I go to my buddy Desmos, good old buddy Desmos. He knows what to do. So I go to Desmos and I simply type in what they gave me. And I can save the time now. So I can simply get rid of these, bring up the old keypad, and I'm typing in 3 parentheses x minus 2 squared, boing, boing, gotta close the parenthesis, then do the squared, minus 5. Whoosh, there it is. Got to love the technology. Okay, so my x-intercepts are 0.709 and 3.291, or 0.7 and 3.3-ish. So I quickly just sketch those into my graph. .709, so that's right about here. And then 3.3, that's right about here. And I know my vertex is in the middle of that. Well, these are both approximations, and you know what? I've got Desmos. And Desmos says, my vertex, this is just so lovely, this technology. Kaboink! It's 2, positive 2, and negative 5. Alrighty, positive 2 and negative 5. So I'm like, right here. So I've got my parabola now. Or as some of my students who will go unnamed, it's a parabola. Notice where the vertex is. I am at 2, negative 5. I'm going to come back to that in a hot second. This one, I could type it into Desmos, but I'm going to save you a little bit of time. And I want to talk about a pattern that's happening here in this problem. And the pattern is kind of slick. Wow, the contrast on this is just... There we go. Oof, duh. Now we're back. Sorry about that. I'm going to skip all this, and I just want to point something out to you. 2, negative 5, and then there's a 2, and there's a negative 5. I know you're probably like, no, that's a negative 2, Mr. Aiken, and you're right. Turns out, these are opposites. But that's exactly the same. Here's what I mean by that. And again, I'm saving you time. I'm going to save you all of this hoo-ha by pointing out to you, wait a minute. If I said that's the opposite, that means my vertex is at negative 4, positive 3. That's what that means. So I can just go over here to negative 4. Sorry, I didn't mean to make a dot there. Negative 4 and positive 3. And I've got that. That's my vertex. I don't have to like work this out. I don't have to FOIL this. You know, I don't have to do the box and then distribute the 3 and then. I don't have to do that. I really don't have to do that. I can just say, oh, there it is. And by the way, I could also, if I wanted to, I could get the y-intercept really quickly by putting in a 0 here and then figuring that out. As it turns out, the y-intercept is way down here. So I'm not going to work on that for right now. But what I will do is I'll say, I do know from what I said before that this thing points down. It's pointing downward, and it's like, if this is normal, it's reaching twice as far. So it's going to be a little narrow from what it normally would be. So I know it's pointed down. I don't know exactly where it crosses the x-axis. And since the book wants us to use Desmos, I'm going to go ahead and do that. So my buddy Desmos, if I quickly type this in and just tweak this a little bit, kaboink. By the way, negative is minus. That's going to kind of bug you. It bugs me a little bit, I know. Plus 4, and then here, plus 3. Negative 2, x plus 4 squared plus 3, right there. Bing, bing. Now I've got a sense of where that graph is hitting the x-axis. It's at negative 5.2, right about there, and at negative 2.8, which is right about there. And now I can sketch my graph. Bada boom, bada bang. Bada boom, bada bang. So that's what it was they wanted you to do there. They wanted you to notice that there's this connection. If you look at Desmos, or if you look at my graph, you'll notice there's this connection between the equation and the vertex. It's always the opposite of what's with the x, and then it's always that part for the y. X and then y. So please take this down in your notes. There's this thing called the vertex form. The vertex form has these new letters in it, and I'm kind of connecting it to our standard form. So this is what we had before. Ax squared plus bx plus c. This is what the original thing was. This is what we've been working with. But this is our new thing. Something I want to point out to you is that back with the standard form, remember how we put in zeros for x, and then that became where it crossed the y-axis? And then we did the box thing, and we figured out where it crossed the x-axis, if we could. Well, now we've got the vertex form. Notice, it has x minus h, so my vertex is at h, and then k. I'll come back to that more in a second, but also notice this one other thing before I move on. That's the same letter A. So back when we did that other problem, we had like that 3 out front, or we had the negative 2 out front. And if I distributed it, I'd still have, out front of the x squared term, I'd have the 3, or the negative 2 would be sitting there. That's the same A value. That's why they use that same A value. These are the two problems we just did. The vertex had nothing to do with this number. It was just that number, the opposite of it, positive 2, and then that number exactly. The opposite of that one, negative 4, that number exactly. Always the opposite of what's with the x. boom, right off the bat, in vertex form, you can see where the vertex is. You don't have to do a lot of math, okay? So here's what I want you to do. When this video ends, I want you to skip what the book says for 880, and I just want you to find the vertex, the x-intercepts, and the y-intercepts for these two. Sketch a graph of it, and then go to Desmos to check your answers. And that'll be, the answers will be what starts the next video. Again, skip the other parts of 880, just do what I'm asking you to do here. Sketch a graph of it.